Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. I will ride with this group. Seriously, man. Please. And away we go.
All right. If you're a football junkie and you're watching on YouTube, you may recognize the man who's joining us today on Purple Daily. We will intro him in a moment and talk Vikings. But Judd, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning loves to come over to your house and fix things anyways.
Yeah, and as most know, I don't let a lot of people in the estate here, right?
Would you let Nate in your house?
Yeah, I think I would let Nate in, but you guys, no way.
What the hell?
But every single time that they come and knock on my door, I allow MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air in my house because they do fantastic work. Furnace, water softener, water heater, all fixed by these fine folks within the last 2 months at my house. They absolutely, positively bring two things that are so important to me, trust and quality, because these are things, I can barely fix a light bulb. So you can imagine what happens
if there's a light bulb.
If there's a problem, screw in a light bulb. You can imagine what happens. You see, I just did it. You can imagine what happens if there's a furnace problem or a water softener problem. But MSP, outstanding. And look, you know what? If you want to talk some purple, they definitely will. But more importantly, they're going to fix what ails your house, and they're going to do a great job. So for service, give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Callmsp.com. They are absolutely, positively a first overall draft pick when it comes to making sure your house is safe and sound.
All right, I think we're going to get smarter here today. You recognize him as an NFL analyst now on Yahoo sports platforms, NFL Network. He's a former NFL scout and assistant coach and a Badger, unfortunately, if you could move that helmet just a little. And he's making people smarter on the Football 301 podcast. Nate Tice joining Purple Daily for the first time.
How you doing? I know, you guys see squinty eyes and everyone's like, that looks familiar. That looks familiar. The eyes aren't even open yet. Yeah, that looks very familiar. No, happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So we'd love you to take, if we ask you a question, you want to take it a different direction, go ahead. But just broadly, now that the draft is over, free agency is over, we've kind of said, going back to the Vikings losing to the Rams, it was like Lions in week 18, then Rams. And Kevin O'Connell basically said 5 minutes after the game at the podium, our interior offensive line is problematic. And he dismantled 60% of the starters. 2 free agents, Donovan Jackson first round. They spent $250 million on free agents, mostly in the trenches, and then used their first round pick on Donovan Jackson. So I guess your thoughts on the state of the Vikings trenches after the last 2 months of activity.
All last year, I kind of was it's funny how life works, a national analyst that was very bullish on the Vikings throughout the season because I thought it was more real. I think a lot of people thought the Vikings were a pumpkin and Sam Darnold was going to turn bad. And so everyone just kind of kept waiting for Sam Darnold to turn bad, And then when it happens at the end of the season, when everybody's watching, everyone just goes, yep, see, told you. Right. As opposed to, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I was paying attention. And the only thing I kept noticing was that ticking time bomb that was the offensive line. And I just kept looking at it and going, I like this team a lot. And I actually think the run game's a little better than it's been in the past, a little more explosive than it's been the last couple of years. But that's going to nuke them. I didn't know when it was going to happen. The Rams game, even going into that week, I was like, yeah, this might be the week that it happens. So even coming away from the draft, I'll just start with kind of reverse engineers. The Donovan Jackson selection, I really love. I love Jackson, period, as a player. Love his fit with the Vikings. Even love his potential versatility in case there is an injury to Darisaw, which is kind of like you can set your clock to at this time. The fact that he has some of that versatility is great. So you don't have to trade for Cam Robinson midseason and have him allow the highest one-on-one pressure rate in the entire NFL. And that's what I kind of, when Darnold went over to the Seahawks, everybody was kind of bringing up, because he turned into a pumpkin. And I just kept pointing out, I was like, did anyone watch this offensive line? The Garrett Bradbury, who I always thought was okay. I thought he was a passable starter. Obviously didn't live up to the hype of a first rounder. The second half of last year, really 3/4 of the year, he was giving up more pressure than anybody. And that was eye test and statistically, O-line stats have some noise to them, but they do track. They have better numbers for it, like one-on-one stuff. And I'm watching it, and the Vikings ask a lot of their offensive line as far as because it's such an aggressive passing attack. But the thing was, it was still bad. And it was still
Yeah.
like they still do things that helped. And same with, they benched Ed Ingram, which I was another player, casted him off as well. He was first in pressure rate allowed before he got benched. And then Ben Brandel, and I always mess up his name.
Blake.
Ben Brandel.
Yeah, Blake Brandel. Yeah.
Blake Landos, I'm sorry, a left guard. He was, I want to say, like third in pressure rate allowed. But at least you have Brian O'Neill. Okay, so keep Brian O'Neill, get Darisaw back. So once they went to free agency and they said Ryan Kelly, Fries, okay, we're getting them right away. I was like, yeah, okay, good. You guys learned the lesson. I didn't even know that O'Connell talked about that at the end of the year, but I noticed it from afar. And so the Donovan Jackson kind of completes that set, which I thought that was smart. That's smart team building to me. Obviously, I'm going to be partial to offensive line building. But I do think that was the big blemish for the Vikings, and really was no matter who was the quarterback, that thing was going to implode on them. And the run game wasn't good enough to overcome that. You had to pass. Your best players are Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Those are the guys you're trying to get the ball. So that's your attack. So I really like that they kind of ate their vegetables and ate their steak this kind of offseason to kind of get bulky again.
That's right. We're gonna give Nate his first football sounder there.
Yeah. I'm sure there's so many K-fan quotes from my dad that it's just like I haven't lived. In
they're still playing constantly.
Oh, I haven't lived there since I was 17. So that's 18 years ago, and people still bring up the enjoy the season.
Yep,
Is
that's
that the
still
one?
getting played.
Enjoy
Calm
the season.
down.
And Chicago,
Eagles, Eagles.
and Chicago's a tough guy town, right?
Yep.
That's
And calm down.
Calm down, yes.
The draft one where he came out and had to tell the crowd's going crazy. But so off the line discussion, Nate, too, because this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart. We also saw then when the Vikings season came to an abrupt end, we also saw how important the line play is just throughout again the rest of the playoffs, because that's always a thing. So way too early. How good do you think that this offensive line with the fixes, and I'm going to assume Darisaw's back, okay?
right.
If you were forced to rank offensive lines right now going into 2025, where would you put the Vikings with the current construction, assuming health for everyone?
Yeah. Assuming health, this is a top 10 offensive line. If everyone's healthy. And actually, Kelly's probably the one that you kind of just got to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
But it's that, he's, as he's gotten older, he was fine last year too, before he got, banged up in the second half of the year. But no, I mean, if everyone is healthy, which again is the if, mostly with Darisaw, of course. But I mean, this is a top 10 offensive line. I can easily say that. Size, talent, as far as just athletic ability, and also just like soundness. Fries and Kelly are sound. O'Neill's sound. I think Jackson's going to be a early starter and a good starter right away. So yeah, this is, and then Darisaw is a Pro Bowl like talent at left tackle. That's a top 10 offensive line. There's no, it's a weak link unit offensive line. There's no one that I'm like, oh, that. It's the onside kick and water boy. Like, oh, there's my, I don't know if I can say the B word, but there's
Go
my
ahead.
guy.
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, there's my bitch. So there's none of that. I look at that offense. If I'm a defense, I'm like, well, these are all at least Bs. Like Kelly's a B at least, but that's better than Bradbury, who I thought was a D plus last year. So, I mean, you don't have to go from bad to Pro Bowl. You just have to go from bad to average. And I think everybody at the very least is above average or better.
Do you think Kevin O'Connell, I mean, I guess I'm putting you on the spot to go inside Kevin O'Connell's brain here, but he loves to pass, as you've said. Even when Kirk Cousins went down in his second year in 2023, and so now you got like 8 or 9 games left, and it's Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, and Jaron Hall, and they still finished like 4th in the league in pass attempts. He's like, all right, Nick Mullins, cut it loose, dude. I know you're going to make 5 turnover-worthy plays, but we're going to live with it. Do you think, given the rebuilt offensive line, they traded for Jordan Mason just for someone who's harder to tackle and someone who can maybe punch it in the red zone? Do you think he wants to run the ball more and just conceded, yeah, we can't, so I'm going to dial up passes? Do you think they will run the ball more in 2025?
Yeah, and that's even before the Mason addition, is that they have a first-year starting quarterback. And to go, hey, yeah, we're going to just keep unpinning the grenade every play. Even if you're optimistic about the quarterback, it's like still that's that's putting the cart before the horse until he can prove it, and then we can maybe get more pass happy to that balance. I just think, especially 2 years ago, really year one of KOC, year two of KOC, that rushing attack was toothless. It just was. It was inefficient, and defense, and it must have been so frustrating because defenses are giving you such easy run looks because of Jefferson. I mean, it was easy for me to see. I was like, this is exactly the 2000s with Moss. You get these soft boxes, and so you just pound it for 5 yards, and then it's easy. I mean, it's easy offense when you have a guy like that. And I think they were just like, and so they got a guy with actual juice in Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, again, is a guy, it's a little undersized for running back. You know, you're worried about always holding up for 16, 17 games. He needs to, just physically, has to have somebody else that can take touches. So even if Jordan Mason isn't sexy, like he is a F-150, but that's what this offense is needed. And not an F-150 that's like Madison was, Alexander Madison, who was a slug. It's like actually Mason. Actually, he was. I'm sorry, everybody wanted to make him a thing, and I just kept.
That was weird,
trying
man.
to watch, and I'm like,
he was like a first round fantasy pick too. And it's like, guys, he's not. He
shut up about him. I'm like, he doesn't. you need. I know there's opportunity, and like everyone just goes, okay, 1 for 1. It's like you still have to have talent. So, but Jordan Mason at least is, I think, an above average runner. Again, not a good, like, amazing needle mover, but for what this offensive roster has, and like Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones are too samey. You need a guy that has a little more, bulk and girth to him. And I just think that's perfect. Maybe take that 60-40, 50-50 type of split. So I do think that they're going to run the ball more. This is all signaling that, and just maybe more of a, not 50-50 balance. I think KOC is always going to be pass heavy because your best player is Justin Jefferson. Your second best player is Jordan Addison. Your third, and then you got TJ Hawkinson as well. Like, that is, you have to throw it. Those are your weapons. So, right. But I do think that this is going to at least leave some more balance, maybe to lift the floor up a little bit for the offense.
So, Nate, now with the line bolstered for sure, to your point, you've got, Jefferson, the top end of your depth chart at the receiver core is really good. You've added a back. How insulated is JJ McCarthy? I'm not trying to insinuate he's going to be great. We don't know yet. But like putting a quarterback, a young starter, in a situation where he has not just weapons, but now protection and things, like how much does this up your opinion of his ceiling for 2025, just based on everything that's been put around him now?
Oh, definitely. At least the floor of what expectations has lifted. I don't think it'll be as volatile. That's what I think people got a little crazy and thinking, oh, you need receivers to help out young quarterbacks. Nothing is going to help out a young quarterback better than an offensive line. Being able to just sit back there, dust the ball off, make your decisions, as opposed to being rushed and everything has to come out in 2 seconds or less. Like this is the best move you can do, and also injecting talent to the interior. Like, to make a sturdy pocket, you have to have the interior sturdy. And I think because people want to get value and chasing stars and all that they think, and then I think people missed lessons from the first Eagles Super Bowl run when they added AJ Brown, and everyone goes, well, that's what you need. You need an AJ Brown to boost your offense. And then everyone missed what was going on, that they had 3 all-pros up front and Jeff Stoutland. And then this year, now everyone goes, oh, the Eagles offensive line. It's always been like that. It's always, since the dawn of football, it is who's on the field the most. Offensive linemen and quarterbacks. They are on the field every single play. They tangibly affect every single play. It is just math. That is why offensive line is so important, and it's impossible to find 320-pound men that can move like this. So I don't know. That's always just been a denominator thing for me. Like, there's not a lot. That's not a big denominator to find these guys. So I think with McCarthy, and especially this offensive attack, and seeing what KOC has done with every type of quarterback, or at least different varying quarterbacks back there, I'm optimistic about it, because I liked McCarthy going into the draft, still like him, saw what he showed in preseason. I went to those couple practices last summer as well. And this is exactly what you want. You have a decent run game, you have an offensive line, and you have tangible weapons. I mean, real weapons.
So you were a JJ guy just through like the draft process a year ago. By the way, I think we're all still like the only real the training camp practices are fun to watch and the full team drills, but like the 3 throws he made in that Raiders preseason game, we're all still like, we're like snorting those still, 10 months later. Give us more on your, like, thinking back a year and a half ago, what was your take on JJ before the Vikings drafted him? And then for people that say surface level, well, he was a handoff merchant at Michigan. And I guess my comeback to that in part is, okay, they did what they had to win games, but when it was like 3rd and 8, must pass situations, high leverage, it's Alabama. He came through. You could argue with Bo Nix, like, all right, let's strip away all the schemed up short yardage stuff and let's just compare like the weighty downs. JJ McCarthy was really good in college at those weighty downs. What was your take and your thought now after the injury?
Yeah, he was such a unique evaluation because you're like you said, you're not throwing the ball a lot. It's all the little things with him, and the fact that he can do these little things that I think the floor is high with him, on top of being a very good athlete. And I think that's why I got optimistic about him. He really grows on you the more you watched him. At least when he was at Michigan. And actually, the game that I was like, okay, I'm starting to get this guy, was the Penn State game where he threw the ball like 9 times. Because in that game, they're backed up at Happy Valley. The crowd's going insane. And you can tell Michigan was so comfortable with how JJ handled the offense that they allowed him to change the count and change the play as they're backed up on the road in a 1-score game. Most colleges would just go, hey, we're giving you a play, snap it. We don't trust you, 20-year-old that was out on Thursday night. Like, we do not trust you. Like, so that those little things, I'm like, okay, that means they're giving him a full offense at 20 years old. Okay, those are the little things I'm looking. Okay, and he's a plus athlete. He's a loose athlete as well. He's not very rigid. He's a loose thrower. He can bend. So those are the things that got me optimistic about him. I also think he does harder. He was tasked to do harder asks. Like the throws he had to make were the harder throws that translate to the NFL. A lot of throwing over the middle. And that's something that's big to me because that's the hardest thing to do as a quarterback. Some guys can make a living without doing it. Jane Daniels just had an amazing season last season. He threw the ball over the middle like 12 times the whole year. Wow. But you can do it. You can win that way. But I think that if you show that you can throw over the middle, that's like shooting a 3 for a basketball player. Okay, you create space for the offense. Those are where the explosive plays happen, but it's the hardest thing to do. So he already did that well. He avoided sacks. He's got pocket movement. He's a plus athlete. I just thought there's some mechanical stuff as a thrower. I thought when he threw to the left, he kind of overextended. That's fixable. He's a good athlete and young. So I ended up becoming him and Cam Ward coming out this year. I had them graded about the same. Different players completely, but as far as grade, I had them graded the same as a guy that was in the 20s on my big board in any type of class, but quarterbacks get inflated. So half round, yeah, you can take him in top 10 or top 12, So I liked McCarthy, and there's just a lot of little things that he does that I'm excited about.
Nate, why do you think that the scouting process, because QBs, it's tough because if you invest in one, it can get you fired if you're wrong. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But I guess what I'm curious about, and as a guy that watches with you both a ton of college and pro and has been around the pro game much of his life, why do you think it's so difficult? Like the things that we got hung up on about JJ at Michigan, to me, are the wrong things. Like Harbaugh's running an NFL offense. If yes. I'm a young QB and I have aspirations to play pro and think I'm really good, I personally want that. Like, I don't want a tricked up, you hold up a sign on the sideline and it's a cow, a moose,
Bert and Ernie. Bert and Ernie. I love Bert and Ernie.
Like, no National Football League scout can take that seriously. So what do you think the disconnect or the problem is in evaluating a kid who's actually being asked to run a pro-style offense and saying, well, didn't pass enough? Like, I'm so confused by this because to me it's such an important evaluation. I feel like we should be past that being a problem.
Okay, can you spit out one of the play calls for us? Yeah, that's Moose.
Yep. Right. Hey, it's a Domino's driver, a little Caesars, the little guy, the logo, the pizza guy. Yeah, I just
check to Stewie from Family Guy. I don't know.
No, I've seen that one. Yeah,
and I think that's why McCarthy had more fans in the league than media. Is because of that. Once you get into interviews with them, they can regurgitate, and actually say those play calls, but not only just say them, but understand why you're doing them. That's the big step too. Like a guy, I think too, is people look at stats first and then they go, oh, this guy threw for 30 touchdowns. This guy did this, this, and that, because that's the easiest narrative to spin. I don't have to watch a guy if I can just point that he threw 40 touchdowns and won Big Ten Player of the Year. That's very easy to point at. But I think, once you start watching these guys, the kids don't know when they get into college. Look at what's happening happened with Nico from Tennessee. He goes to Tennessee, and then now he's mad that Tennessee's not preparing him for the NFL. It's like, well, they didn't change the offense. So what, like, I think you were just bad last year and you're mad at everybody else because you were bad last year. Yeah. But for being honest, those are the guys, or I'm sorry. I think it's just hard, really. I just think a lot of they're kids, and then they have parents that aren't around and don't know what truly an NFL offense is. They watch Patrick Mahomes. They just see the crazy plays and him throwing off on the move. They don't realize how boring Andy Reid's offense is. It's under center. You're handing the ball off. You're making kills and checks. I think just a lot of people just don't realize that. This is something I know I hate to bring it up, but at Wisconsin, they would get frustrated that we have 5 NFL offensive linemen in front of you. And we run a pro offense. We will throw if you're worthy of throwing. Like if we have Russell Wilson back there, wow, all of a sudden we throw it all the time. Wow, isn't that crazy? Like that's what Paul Chris used to get frustrated about. He's like, I had Derek Anderson. We threw it like 500 times because I had an NFL quarterback and 2 NFL receivers. It was just the makeup. And I mean, recruiting high school kids, it's hard to get across from them because they see the stats. They see, hey, this kid's playing in this offense, and like Ohio State's offense doesn't really prepare a guy. I mean, kind of does for the NFL, but it also kind of like it makes it a lot easier when you're throwing to those receivers and you're only running 5 plays. Jackson Dart, I think, is a good conversation for this draft class. That Ole Miss's offense, everyone goes, oh, Lane Kiffin, he coached in the NFL. That is the most elementary offense you'll ever see. And that's on purpose. Lane Kiffin's job is not to groom these guys to the NFL. Lane Kiffin's job is to score points and win games. And yeah, we can say he used to coach in the NFL, but that's not an NFL offense that he's running. It's very gimmicky. It's very like what I call money plays. It's a guy in Madden that has 5 plays that work. I'm going to call him over and over and over and over. It worked for him, but Jackson Dart, I think, is stunted. I think he needs a lot of time to get into NFL, being an NFL quarterback. Just watch him at the Senior Bowl. He couldn't even take snaps under center. So there is a disconnect between public and media perception, and even from the kids, as opposed to what the actual asks of the NFL are. And I there's always going to be that disconnect because it's just hard. I mean, I never watched college growing up. All I did was watch NFL. It was all I was around. I didn't really get into college till I was getting recruited. I'm like, oh, I should maybe know who some of these teams are. But some of the people were completely opposite. They've never watched NFL in their entire lives, and they just watched their little college team, not little, big college team, and they just aren't exposed to that. So it's just, I don't know how else to put it, but maybe just osmosis of learning it and just exposure to it. But yeah, I think there's just more mental side to it all than I think people realize.
You have such a unique perspective of college pro, growing up, being around the NFL, and then also like what you've been immersed in and studied professionally, college and professionally in your media career, quarterbacks and offensive line. You kind of see how the offensive picture pieces together. Kevin O'Connell has been on a crusade, it feels like, the last several years. He's adamant that teams let young quarterbacks down more than like, well, we're so quick to say that Sam Darnold is a bust and what a terrible pick. It's like, well, actually, if you put him in an environment that makes some sense and a coach knows what he's doing, side street, Sam Howell, I feel like it's a perfect time for him to enter QB rehab school here in Minnesota because maybe there's still some career to salvage. My question to you is, what are like, if a team came to you and said, all right, we are clueless as to how to identify a quarterback in the draft and develop him, what are like the 3 most important factors for a quarterback who becomes a bust versus a quarterback who becomes, a guy that gets MVP votes?
I think first is I blame Tom Brady, not Tom Brady himself, but maybe how Tom Brady has spun his whole career. I think we underrate that the NFL is a traits league. And that doesn't mean just offensive line, receiver, defensive line. That means quarterbacks too. And if you are sub 6'2", if you are sub 215, you better have athleticism. Like you have to. You have to be at the very least an above average to good athlete. And not saying above average for a college quarterback. I'm saying for an NFL quarterback.
Right.
And I think there's a misconception right now, even guys that win from the pocket, everyone goes, well, this guy wins from the pocket. Brock Purdy wins from the pocket. Brock Purdy's a good athlete. Brock Purdy can run. CJ Stroud doesn't want to run. He can run though. Like he is a sub 4.7 guy. And I think that there is some disconnect with that the traits don't matter. Oh, Tom Brady, greatest player in the league. He didn't have any traits. He was 6'5", 230, got recruited by Michigan, and he has a plus arm. He had traits. It's just
also like brilliant at moving a half a foot left or right, and like brilliant in a small little pocket space, right?
And that actually leads to my second point, which the second thing I look at is how they win from the pocket. And do they take sacks, which is really nice now because we actually have numbers as opposed to just eye test. Because I do think there is some stickiness with the stats going from college to the pros, and the fact that taking sacks is more on the quarterback. Yes, offensive line is going to lead to pressures, but the sacks is the quarterback. And do you get rid of the ball? Are you trying to escape? How do you try to escape? Are you trying to scramble to throw? Are you trying to scramble to run? Those little things that come from when you get pressured, how you react to the pressure. So I say sacks, pocket movement, that all kind of is all tied together. That would be one of the most important things I look. So really, Shadur Sanders is a great discussion of all this and why I was not shocked he fell day one or round one. I was not. I was on the Yahoo show saying this the entire time, no matter how many times people asked me. To me was a round 3 guy. It was because when I watched him, he's sub 6'2". He weighed 212 at the combine. That's sub 215. Okay, so right away, miss. All right, how good of an athlete are you? Wow, you take a lot of sacks and your pocket movement isn't good. You keep trying to bail, and guys and Big 12 defensive ends, not NFL defensive ends, are running you down. Fail. Okay, so right to me, I was like, okay, we this is a project. All right, and then how do you win from the pocket? To me, to him, a lot of things were elongated. I thought, some of his decision making, I thought he was safe with the ball and it was accurate. I just thought everything took maybe an extra second. So like when I'm evaluating the guy and they play from the pocket, how's the timing? How quickly does the ball get out? Are you throwing with anticipation? That comes again from McCarthy throwing over the middle. Throwing over the middle, you can't be late. Even in college, it's tough to be late unless you have a Ryan Mallett arm, that can just hose it in there. So if you can operate over the middle, that usually shows anticipation, timing, and then, and usually you can see the arm strength with that. So if you had to tie it in, it's traits, how you win from the pocket or how you mitigate pressure, and then how do you operate from the pocket, which is then throwing over the middle. Do you throw with anticipation? Do you understand how to get the ball out? Are you pressured and check it down? So it's kind of a checklist I go through, but the first and foremost thing is traits. And I wish I could be and say, no, people got it wrong. Nope. That is going to be tried and true. I say weight classes exist in combat sports for a reason, and they exist in the NFL for a reason. And people throw away weight so much and don't account for how much that matters for play.
In your mind, does McCarthy check all three now that the weight is back up? Because he did lose a bunch of weight. And fans thought, oh my God, he's going to be a waif model. This is unbelievable. But believe it or not, athletes work with nutritionists, folks.
Yes.
And they can help the athlete gain positive weight back, unlike us who just gains weight.
Yes, and that actually was one of my blemishes when I wrote up McCarthy, was that he in college was sub 205. He got put on a bunch of water weight for the combine. I think he was like 218, 219. But I was up. So like it was a funny thing with him and Jane Daniels, where Jane Daniels, I was willing to wave it away a little bit. Sub 205 quarterbacks, it's hard to find guys that have long-term success. Kirk Cousins was actually one of the few you can ever find. It's like Jeff Garcia, Kirk Cousins, Mark Bolger, Mike Vick, those are kind of it's a weird list of guys. So with Jane Daniels, I was willing to wave it away because, well, he runs a 4.3. And then with McCarthy, I was like, well, you're 20 years old and you're skinny, but you have long arms. So physically, I feel like you can put on 10, 15 pounds easy. And then, which I think he probably weighs 215, 220 now. So that's why for me, it was like, that was a data point for me because there isn't a long-term success of that, but good athlete and has a frame to grow into. So I was willing to wave that wave, but that is something I do look at a lot because it's the Derek Carr. Because when I was around him, he was weighing sub 205, and guys in the pocket were able to just pull him down. And that always sticks with me. I grew up around freaking Dante Culpepper.
Right.
So I was like, what is this? Run out of it. Run out
270 pounds. But then like the hand size for him was a problem.
Yes.
But
Yes. Yeah. Came up with Cam Ward this year. He had 9-inch hands and he has a history of fumbles. And I was like, oh, I know this one.
Yep.
I remember this one. I remember this one big time.
Man, Nate, well, just one more minute here because we want to be respectful of your time. And we have a random Viking of the week that we're going to get to here on this Tuesday on Purple Daily. So in our final minute, could you give us your favorite random Viking of all time?
Moelde Moore.
Yeah.
Moelde Moore is probably my favorite random Viking. And he's the epitome of a running back to me. That's why. They're just a perfect all-around running back. I chase a Moelde Moore in every draft class. I'm trying. It's Devin Neal. It's Devin Neal in this class.
All right.
Who went to the Saints.
But
I really I always try to find Moelde Moore, one of my favorite just pro players ever, just because of like everything he could do. But yeah, that was probably my favorite random Viking.
Moelde Moore and Adrian Peterson, the same yards per carry in their Vikings careers. There you go.
That's a great stat. The return against the Giants in 2005 when my dad got his leg shredded.
I was there.
Sideline.
I was at that game. Yeah, I was covering that game.
Interception return, punt return, and kick return for a touchdown. They won the game and then kicked the field goal at the end of the game. Still one of the weirdest NFL games I've ever seen.
And your dad came to work, I believe, the next day. Gave a status report, and I don't think he talked about it again. So he was a tough coach as well as a tight end.
Yes, he's really tough. It kind of spoiled me. And then my wife is just like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And it's like, "Oh no, actually I tore something or something." There's like, "Well, I got it from my dad."
There's a bone sticking out of your calf right now. What's happening? Everything's fine.
No surgery either. He tore his MCL and got no surgery.
He didn't get surgery for it.
I don't think he did. I think he did because I think MCL you can let heal as opposed to ACL and stuff, but it's like it's a long heel.
Yeah.
Pain is a mindset. Pain is a mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was 2005 was an interesting year in Minnesota sports. So,
yep.
That's an understatement, Nate Tice.
There's a lot to unpack there, maybe on a future episode. But yeah, if you're looking for, I'm sure most of you already follow Nate Tice and his work, but the Football 301 podcast is awesome. And his draft recap stuff on yahoosports.com right now is there for you to read as well. So, hey man, thanks for jumping on Purple Daily, Nate.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. This was a blast. I know. Good to get hit with some nostalgia. Yeah, so I appreciate it.
Love it, man.
Thanks, man.
All right, Nate. We'll hopefully do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
With Nate.
See you guys soon.
Before we get to our random Viking of the week here, Judd, let's talk about Butcher and the Boar. You looking for some meat sweats this weekend? How about Butcher and the Boar?
You know what? If you are going to a Wolves or Twins game, I have the perfect pregame stop for you. The Butcher and the Boar, absolutely fantastic. North Loop, a gathering space for Southern-style hospitality. We've all tried it. It is absolutely A1. It is great. Happy hour, 4 to 6 every day. And if you don't feel like a lot, but you're like, I am hungry, try the Judd Special. A beer brat and a shot for $15. That's a huge handmade beer brat with sauerkraut and mustard. Any draft beer, any rail shot, $15. I'm telling you though, perfect stop if you're going downtown, North Loop, perfect for date night, perfect for a pregame. You are going to come away satisfied at the Butcher and the Boar.
I would say the same thing about Black Stack. You're going to be satisfied with their world-renowned craft beer, which you can find in the second largest tap room in the state of Minnesota, and or pretty much everywhere distributed across the state of Minnesota, from Grand Marais all the way down to Rochester, and expanded distribution into Wisconsin, Nebraska, and South Dakota. We got a couple 755 New England IPAs in the Mackey refrigerator right now. I think there's 4 Slopes French Pilsners to get into here later on this week. Those. So LFG, blackstagbrewing.com to find out the events going on at their tap room, where you can buy this glorious craft beer, and during the season, available inside the stadium during Vikings games. It's golf weather here. I feel like now that the quote-unquote storms have passed through from last night, we're going to get into some good golfing weather, Dex.
Yeah, in fact, 70s starting this Sunday. I see 70s in the forecast for Sunday, all of next week. So finally, some beautiful weather. And I'm looking at the tee sheet right now at golfthemeadows.com. You got tee times available for Saturday and Sunday and early next week as well. So if you're looking for a place to get some swings in, golfthemeadows.com. It's a scenic, beautiful course. Maybe you're coming up from the Twin Cities too, and you want to plan a little stop somewhere. You can do that at the Meadows at Mystic Lake. Book that tee time by going to golfthemeadows.com. That's golfthemeadows.com.
Okay, boys, time for the Random Viking of the Week. We brought this competition back because you guys asked us to, and I think it was we had maybe like a year off between when we kind of wrapped the 3-year run of Random Viking Weeks. We said, let's just start over. And let's start over, clean slate, where all three of us compete equally like we do with the Random Twin and the Random Wolf on Flagrant Howl. So I have a 2-0 lead in the new era over you guys. Bobby Wade and EJ Henderson. It's Judd's turn to throw out the clues. So Dex and I get up to 3 incorrect guesses each. If one of us hits a third strike, the other one wins automatically. We also have a hard out because we have Trevor Plouffe Tuesdays to record. Just pulling back the curtain in 9 minutes. So
yep. All right. Let's go.
Here we go.
This Random Viking entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent. That's right. We saw a bunch of them this past weekend. UDFA. His cousin was an offensive lineman for the Dolphins and the Bills. Now, there was a reason why this guy was not drafted going back to really high school. He was only a 3-star coming out of high school via Rivals. So 3-star recruit, not bad. Talented. But certainly not.
Just kind of a guy, though.
Just kind of a guy who made his way to the National Football League.
3-star recruit as a quarterback. Did you say that?
Nope.
Or you just say 3-star recruit?
Nope. Just 3-star recruit.
Okay.
His academic struggles in high school forced him to begin his collegiate career at Snow College in Utah.
Snow College?
Yep. In fact, he spent 2 years at Snow. I had never heard of Snow, to be quite frank, or I didn't recall that I had until I started to look up these clues.
Snow College.
While playing in college, he broke his leg not once but twice.
Wow. Ugh. Wait, so, wow, to even get to the NFL.
I know.
3-star high school, bad academically, Snow College in Utah, broke his leg twice in college, and still got to the NFL.
Yeah. It's a rags to riches story. It's a lot of adversity. Damn near a movie, one would say. Except there was really no hook to it, except for his resilience. His collegiate career then took him to Utah. So he stayed in state, went to Utah.
Is this Naufahu Tahi?
It's not. That's a buzzer. He would spend 5 seasons as a Viking. So put together a pretty nice run as a Viking.
5 seasons as a Viking.
Utah.
He spent, obviously, because of his skill set, plenty of times on special teams, and even occasionally returned kickoffs. Wow. This next one will help you guys. He rushed for 1,259 yards in 74 career games and 16 starts with the Purple.
Can you slow that down, please? What was that?
He rushed for 1,259 yards in 74 career games, 16 starts, so 1,259 in the rushing with the Vikings.
Matt Asiata, let's go, baby.
That sounds good.
Phil is now 3-0.
Sounds good.
I was on it with like the random running back, fullback, 3 yards a carry guy, right? Yeah.
The Tahi guess was solid. I think Tahi was, now that you mention it, a Utah guy as well, right?
I think so.
I think he was from Utah. I don't remember if he played there, but I think he was from Utah.
I just want to see it. If he's also from Utah, BYU.
Oh, BYU.
So,
okay. Well,
pretty close.
Provo.
Close enough.
Same state.
Wow. So do you guys want to even continue the random Viking of the week, or are we is it over?
Dude, you're only up. No, you know what? Unlike the Lakers, we got depth.
Yeah.
No. Unlike the Lakers, and I don't think you're Ant. So I want another shot.
Yeah, we'll
As
find
Gary
out.
Busey said
Don't poke the bear in random
Mel
Viking of the week.
Gibson, Lethal Weapon 1, the best. Do you want a shot at the title? Oh yeah.
Right here.
Greatest fight scene, one of the great fight scenes in cinema.
I thought, as you heard on about 4 years ago on our Mackie and Jeb movie reviews, Action Movie Rewind, that it was an unnecessary fight because they already had him detained with about 15 police officers.
Dude, you don't understand the franchise.
We could either just arrest him now or let him duke it out with this other police officer while we watch. I don't know. Felt unnecessary.
And then he gets the gun, and then he wrestles the gun away so they get to blow him away. Are you kidding? It's a great movie.
Yes, right. So, hey, thanks to Nate Tice for making us smarter here on this Purple Daily episode. And we'll see if Judd and Declan can get off the schneid next week in this random Viking of the week.
It's only 3.
Study up. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
Fran Tarkington.